Next question is the big one.
This is the big one.
It's a big one. So, how do you feel about the new kid on the block, the content creator stepping onto the scene?
So I got to be honest with you. For weeks, I was like, when I knew I was coming on, I was like, I'm going to shit on wedding content creators. Who the hell do they think they are? Then I listened to your podcast with Wedding...
With Emily, yeah.
With Emily. Emily, I'll get your name right by the end of the podcast, I promise. And it was really eye-opening to me because it comes back to more of like, hey, we were back when I started, I was Emily 10 years ago with the DSLRs, making music videos, doing these fun little new things that the older videographers were like, what is this guy doing? You know what I mean? Or photographers. So do I have an issue with wedding content creation? Absolutely not. I'm not a photographer, so there are levels where you guys won't understand why video guys might be upset about that, and that is photo is always the top thing. Always. There's never very rarely do I show up to a job where I'm number one. It's happened. It's wonderful. But very rarely are we ever considered essential. You know what I mean? Some people consider it, some people don't. But photo has always, for whatever reason, even now with the tech, no disrespect, has been essential. So I have kind of an issue with it in terms of like them coming into the space and kind of maybe, how do I say this without offending anybody? I think sometimes that product lessens what we do because people think, oh, they could just do it on a cell phone. And it's not. It's countless hours and nights of color correction, cutting out sniffles, and you are my best friend. I love it. And I'm just editing.
So like me?
No, but it's what we do is extremely time consuming to make sure the audio is amazing, to make sure that the visuals are amazing. And when you, again, to the toxicity of social media, when you post something from, let's say, a destination wedding, and you get 2,000 likes, you're like, this is awesome. And then you see the content creator posted them walking on a path out of focus and shaky, and it gets 29,000 likes in 1 minute. You're like, what the hell am I doing?
Like, what am I doing, man?
So I will never treat anybody in the industry less than, or I will welcome them into the space. I've had situations where, like, not necessarily a wedding content creator, but it was, let's say the person who like works on the dress, all day, in these big lavish weddings. Like, I like to do my interviews by myself with my client, right? So it's very personal. Like, tell me how you guys met. Tell me if everybody has phones on them. This person walked in the middle of the interview and just started filming. Yeah. And I go, no, this is a private moment for my video. So the argument that I think videographers have too is that, one, some of the footage that comes out is kind of stuff maybe they wanted to keep secret till, you know what I mean? Even with poses, like you were talking about the photographer who was pissed that I've been doing this for a long time in poses. There's a level of me that sympathizes with it because those photos are going up in 24 hours. A version of it that's not necessarily bad, but it's definitely not as good as the professional photography. Yeah. But the problem is it hasn't hurt your space. So you guys can talk about it in the sense where it's like, no, let them into the industry, all this stuff. I say let them into the industry, but also understand how we could also be a little bit frustrated. And a little bit nervous about, I've seen guys with gimbals now. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's very valid.
Yeah. It's a valid concern. I wouldn't say it's a threat to say somebody like you and your style because of the fact of the high level production you put into it. Right. People value it. It's a luxury, right? Like anything we do in the industry is a luxury. Photography is even a luxury. When we break down a wedding day is about the bride and groom, like saying their vows and getting married. Anything else is an add-on, even photography. Yeah. But the fact is that, like, while we're a luxury, some things are a necessity. Photography, people think is a necessity. Whereas wedding video, I think people with content creators stepping in, they do feel that, hey, I could just do a content creator and
that's happened to me.
And I'm sure it has. And that's the part that's like, I know concerning to videographers in the industry, and we obviously wanted to talk about that and everything like that. What I've seen with content creators is, at least the good ones, are saying the right things and are doing the right things, where they're keeping it, we're a third angle, we're not interfering, we're not doing anything to interfere with the professionals on the day. We don't consider ourselves pure professionals. We're there capturing content from a behind the scenes perspective. Now, if it changes where the fact that you have a content creator showing up with a DSLR.
That is a big fat no.
Like, because here's the thing: you give them an inch, they might take a mile, and you go, wait a second, why do you have lights? And now you're putting a mic next to my mic for your cell phone video?
Yeah.
Like, get the fuck out of here, dude.
No.
Seriously. Or girl, or well, no. Anyway, but no, I'm saying it can be. It's a little bit nerve wracking because, if it starts going in that direction, they'll be like, well, I want to make it a little bit better, and I want to record the vows with sound and all this stuff. It's not just. It's a lot more difficult than that. Example: I worked with 100 photographers who fucking hate zap shots from the DJ.
Yeah.
Because they're posting their photos up on the screens and people could think, that's my photo. And I understand.
We talked all about that. Yep. Yeah.
But you also can't tell a DJ no, because I understand it. But there have been people where I've worked with for years before wedding content was ever a thing that said no zap shots on my
That's wild.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you guys have never heard that, photographers?
No,
I've seen it. I just I can't get over it.
One of my friends in the industry has that, and it's well known that that's what they have. I say the same thing. We kind of said the same thing with content creators is like, if the medium's different, then you have every right to be there.
Right.
When you cross the mediums where you don't cross the streams.
Yeah.
That's where we're going to have an issue. Like the day a content creator shows up with a DSLR and starts taking photos alongside of me and ripping off my poses and then sending the content the next day, then we're going to have a problem.
But did you see what you just said there?
Yeah.
That's because he's coming in or she's coming in your space.
100%.
So now think about it from the videographer's point of view, where they're coming in mostly doing video that people get probably 6 months before you deliver your final product. And sometimes it lessens a little bit of it. Like, it's like, oh, I already saw that shot from a different angle. They didn't get a chance to you know what I mean? It's like filming Wedding Crashers on a VHS camera while the show, and you're seeing all the behind the scenes stuff. You're like, well, I saw that scene. Or it's like seeing a trailer before the film releases, but the trailer showed everything that was in the movie.
Yep.
You're like, this kinda,
I think,
to
touch on that, I feel like that's going to affect more videographers that have not kind of evolved their work with the times.
100%. Like,
your work is very specifically cinematic in nature. Yours, like we talked about Fury before, the Ray Estradas, the people that really take care and have a specifically very cinematic style. I feel like that is really what's more desired right now and where we are in wedding videography. I'm sure there's outliers of people that are like, I just want something to document, but those are the people that are going to choose a content creator over a videographer.
There's a videographer when I was starting the business, Penny Lane. It was Adam Forgione, who basically was one of the guys who started the DSLR thing. Penny Lane was the top tier. They're out of weddings now. I think they just do corporate. But I think he said, I think this was him. Don't quote me, but quote me. If you're a videographer and you show up with a DSLR and a 50 mil and you can't shoot the entire wedding and make it look good on just that, you're probably not very good at this. You know what I mean? Or he basically said, it's not necessarily the lenses it's just basically if you have one camera body and you're talented, you can do it. That's somewhat my fear with content creators, is that eventually it's going to be we just need a guy with a phone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now, there's a part of me that goes, if you could pay me somewhat of what I make and I get to show up with just this, my back, my legs, my gear, I could drive a sports car instead of a truck. Come on, it would be awesome.
Now, here's the next question. What do you see the future of wedding videography being like?
That is where that keeps me up at night. I have to be honest with you. Because it's if anything in this discussion, we've learned that those who don't change die and fade away.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm offering somewhat of a content creation thing. If people want a third shooter, which is a cell phone, you can add that onto a package. But I'm not doing TikToks of real, but I'll get it to you the next. The issue is, 10 years ago, would you ever even heard the word AI?
No.
You know what I mean? And it's there's a level of what's next? Is it going to be, are we making films for VR and Apple's glasses and people can just watch them? There's a level, people filming wedding content. I don't go back and look at anything on my phone that I've filmed in the last like 3 ever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so the future of it, I don't know how people are actually going to store things and remember things if everything's on a cloud with 700 other thousand things throughout their life.
Yeah.
But the change is very real, and you have to kind of figure out what's going to happen. Is it going to be phone-based stuff? Is it going to be like the slow-mo photo booth that was like so hot from 2012 to 2014? No one does it now. You know what I mean? Is it going to fade away? You got to kind of have to go with trends. I have a feeling that the horizontal 16:9 visual, like the cinema, everyone's always going to want that. But it's just how are we going to display it? What are going to be the tools that we use to make that? Am I eventually going to be able to do all of this on my phone? I think so.
Okay.
Or an iPad. So it's a scary time to kind of be like, well, how do we move with the tech? Because even this year, like, I never heard of a content creator until this year.
No,
or the year
it was,
before.
yeah,
And now
2023.
everyone's like, oh, dude, you're not getting a content creator? I was like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm trying to change with the times, but it's also like, I know the product that delivers great and people like it, but how do I progress? And that's the question that keeps me up at night. And I think a lot of people in this business, because one day this is going to come out and there's going to be some dude on a wedding job that can take just as good as photos with this as they can with a DSLR.
We know it's coming.
It's coming.
It's coming. And if you don't think that,
if you don't think that and don't prepare for it, you're not.
I prepare for it all the time.
Yeah.
It's truly remarkable that if people aren't thinking like that, you're just not thinking ahead. And you have, in any industry, it doesn't matter what you work in. It doesn't have to be the wedding industry, but we talked about it. We said, Kodak had the patent for the digital camera. They didn't,
oh my gosh,
they didn't do anything with it. And look at them today. They're a shell with themselves. So we talked about that.
Well,
and
I mean, they do offer a super 8mm camera for $7,000.
Sure. They are so caught in the 90s.
Yep.
And that's the problem is
Adapt or die, right?
Yep.
adapt or die.
Adapt or
Like
die.
you have to evolve with the times or you're going to be a dinosaur, right?